Hi, I'm Peter Eastway. We're here at Taronga Zoo, Sydney, and my job is to teach you post-production. But before we get into that fun stuff, we've got to go and take a few photographs, so let's go. We're in front of the chimp cage, and it's one of my favourites. The antics are fantastic, lots to photograph. We've got a little bit of a challenging situation in that the weather is so fantastic, but it's challenging for us as photographers. One of the techniques I use when shooting action is to shoot a little bit wider. So while I've got a telephoto lens and I can zoom in close, the action can move in and out of the frame really quickly. So what I do is I shoot wider, capture the action, and then I can crop the image later on in post-production. Back in the studio is probably the best time to sit back and reconsider your photographs. When you're out in the field, everything's happening, it can be exciting. Take the shot. Just take the shot and then worry about it later on. And then later on, in Lightroom, where we are at the moment, let's think about composition, framing and cropping. Because what we want our photograph to do is talk to our readers. We want to communicate what we think is important in that photograph. With the photograph of the mother chimpanzee, what's important to me is her with her bub. I'm not really so interested in the background, so when we come to cropping it, let's remove the unwanted background and the foreground. Come up into my crop tool and Lightroom, if we're using Lightroom, puts a border around it. There's no requirement to keep the same shape that the camera manufacturer has provided. Let's turn this into a vertical. And by turning it into a vertical, we're actually concentrating our viewers' attention on what's important to us. We're also moving the focus of attention up into the top left-hand corner using the rule of thirds, and that can be a benefit in itself. Press done, and then I think you'll agree that we've got a much stronger image simply by cropping it. This is a great example of not being able to get as close to our subject as we'd like to. And we've got lots of things in the background that are competing for attention. We've got the little waterfall on the right and we've got the bright rocks on the left. And of course the photograph is a little bit underexposed in terms of our subject. So we can quickly fix that. We can come along and increase our exposure a little bit and importantly grab the shadows and lighten them up. And you'll see that we can put lots of detail, but even that, it's still very busy. Let's come down to our crop tool and let's be bold. Let's get rid of that waterfall up in the top right and come in nice and tight, and we're going to get rid of those rocks on the left, and that solves a lot of exposure problems. We might even turn it into an almost square image, and that's much better, much stronger, much more engaging for our viewers as well. Sometimes we're cropping for artistic effect. On other occasions, what we're trying to do is hide some things so that we give a different impression. For example, our photograph of the koala, we can see on the right here that we've got a big metal structure. It's one of the bars holding up the cage, and that sort of gives the game away. So what I'm going to use is the crop tool to get rid of that. So we come into crop, we just literally drag it over to the right, and we're hiding that. And so now it looks more like the koala is out in the wilds. The photo, of course, isn't quite balanced. We're now going to come and just drag over it on the left, just bring that in so that we've got a better balanced image, and one that's self-contained. We've got the tree growing out of the koala's head in the background, but we can look at that in another way at another time. But I think you'll agree that that's a stronger version of the photograph. I think cropping is one of the easiest and one of the most powerful techniques you can use in post-production. It's very simple. However, cropping requires you to get the camera angle right in the first place. Take, for example, the giraffe photographs I've taken here. The giraffe on the left has got a very busy background. It doesn't matter how I crop the image, it's always going to have a busy background. Whereas the photograph on the right, I can work on that, I can crop it and create a stronger, more powerful image. So I hope you've taken away a couple of ideas on cropping. And don't forget, photography is all about capture and post-production. I'm Peter Eastway.